The day I thought would be the happiest of my daughter's life turned into a nightmare when the groom demanded I leave. But the shocking reason behind his demand is darker than it can be imaged. My name is Maggie Hartley, and my beloved daughter, Sophia, had been waiting her entire life for this day. The day she would marry the man of her dreams, the day our family would finally have its moment in the sun. We were all excited. I had always dreamed of seeing her walk down the aisle, the way I had once walked with her father on my arm. But nothing could have prepared me for the shock that would come next. The day of her wedding started like any other. The church was filled with family and friends, laughter, flowers, and the sweet sound of a violin playing softly in the background. Sophia looked radiant in her wedding gown, her eyes sparkling with joy as she stood next to her soon-to-be husband, Daniel. I had never seen her so happy, and as a mother, that joy was everything to me. Seeing my daughter so in love, so full of hope, it felt like a dream come true. But then something happened, a moment that I will never forget. As the vows were exchanged and the priest pronounced them husband and wife, I stood there, my heart swelling with pride. And then it happened. Daniel, my son-in-law, turned to me. "Margaret, I think it's time you leave," he said, his voice cold and sharp. I froze. My heart stopped. For a split second, I thought I had misheard him. This was supposed to be the happiest day of Sophia's life, wasn't it? So why on earth was he asking me to leave? I looked around the room, trying to make sense of it. There was a moment of stunned silence, then the whispers began. I could hear them, his family smirking behind their hands, their eyes full of disdain. There I stood, the mother of the bride, being told to leave my own daughter's wedding. It felt like a slap to the face. My heart shattered. I glanced at Sophia, hopping for some sign of understanding, but she was standing there, frozen, her face pale. She couldn't meet my eyes. I was no longer a part of this moment, no longer welcome. My husband David wasn't here to support me, having passed away just months ago, leaving a void in my heart that no one could fill. Now, Daniel and his family were pushing me out, just like they always had. The sting was unbearable. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the humiliation or the realization that my daughter was about to walk into a life I had never imagined for her. Daniel, the man I had once thought of as a loving son-in-law, was now just another man who saw me as insignificant. I slowly gathered my things and left the church, trying to hold back the tears. I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. Why had they done this? Why was I being cast aside when I had supported my daughter through every struggle, every heartache, every triumph? Was this what I had become? The cold air hit me as I stepped outside, and I felt the bitterness of the world closing in around me. It wasn't just about the wedding. It was about my entire existence with them in their world. I was just a ghost now, forgotten. As I walked back to my car, I could feel my fingers trembling, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alone. But then I remembered something, David's phone. It had been sitting on the kitchen counter when I arrived at the church that morning, untouched, a reminder of the man I had loved for decades. It was the only thing he had left me after his death, the only connection I had to him. As I opened the door to my car, I reached into my bag and pulled out David's phone. I hadn't thought about it all day, too caught up in the chaos of the wedding. But now, with nothing left, it felt like the only thing that mattered. He had left it behind for a reason, I was certain of it. But why? I fumbled with the phone, my hands still trembling. As I glanced at the screen, I noticed that it was locked. Of course, David had always been protective of his privacy. He had always kept his secrets, even from me, but I didn't care about the secrets anymore. I needed answers. Tears welled in my eyes. I needed to know why he had left me with so little. Why had I been pushed to the edge of everything? The world felt like it was closing in on me. I couldn't go back to the house and let his family mock me, not today. My fingers hovered over the screen, unsure of how to proceed. Should I try his birthday? His initials? I was desperate. The thought of being so close to something that could explain everything made my stomach twist. And then I did it. I tried one more combination, our anniversary. It was a shot in the dark, but it felt right. I pressed the button. The screen blinked. It worked. I gasped, my heart racing in my chest. The phone unlocked, and my hands were shaking as I opened the folder titled "For Maggie." I stared at it for a long moment, unsure of whether I was prepared to uncover whatever lay inside. My mind raced with possibilities. What had David been hiding? What secrets had he kept from me? I took a deep breath and opened the folder. The first thing I saw was a video file. The thumbnail showed David looking directly at the camera. He looked different, serious, his expression cold. I tapped the screen and the video began to play. His voice echoed in the quiet of the car. "Maggie, if you're watching this, then I'm gone. But everything you've known, everything you think you understand, is about to change." I could feel my heart drop into my stomach. My husband, the man I had loved with every fiber of my being, had planned something massive. "This isn't just about our family's money," David continued in the video. "This is about what they did to me, what they've done to you. I couldn't let them win. And now, Maggie, it's your turn to take what's rightfully ours." I sat frozen, staring at the screen. David knew this would happen. He knew I would be left out, that I would be mocked, and that his family would take everything. And that was when the full weight of his plan hit me. This wasn't just about inheritance, it was about revenge. He had set me up to be the one to take the final step. I was the key. The phone screen flickered, and the message changed. "This is my gift to you, Maggie. It's time for you to play your part." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. David had died, but he had left me with a mission I was too scared to even consider. The video ended. I sat there in stunned silence. What was I supposed to do now? Would I follow through with David's revenge, or would I let them win? I looked at the phone one last time, and I knew this was only the beginning. I had a choice to make. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Should I carry out David's plan, or should I turn my back on everything he left behind? I need to know your thoughts. Leave your comments below also. Like this video and subscribe to our channel. I sat there in my car, staring at David's phone, my hands trembling, my heart pounding. The message he had left for me echoed in my mind like a cruel whisper. "Maggie, if you're watching this, then I'm gone. But everything you've known, everything you think you understand, is about to change." The words hit me like a freight train, shattering the fragile calm that had settled over me. My husband, the man I had shared my life with, had known this would happen. He had planned for it. He had known that his family would betray me, and he had left me with the most twisted of gifts. A phone filled with secrets, a phone that held the key to a revenge plot so intricate, so elaborate, I couldn't yet comprehend its full scope. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my hands. I needed to focus. There was so much more to uncover. What had David left behind? Why had he chosen me to carry out this plan? What had I missed all these years? I had to know the truth. There could be no turning back now. I tapped the screen again, and a new folder appeared, one that was simply labeled "The Family." I felt a chill run through me. I clicked it. Inside were dozens of files, documents, audio recordings, even video clips. I clicked on the first one, which was a recording labeled "The Betrayal." David's voice crackled through the speaker. "This is the beginning, Maggie. Everything you've ever known about this family is a lie." I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight, constricting with every word he spoke. "Ellen Hartley, my sister. She's been trying to take my empire for years. She's conned her way into this family, manipulated everyone around her. And then there's Gregory, my cousin, the snake." I paused the recording. I had known about the tension in the family, but this was something else entirely. David had always kept me in the dark about their dynamics, but now the truth was spilling out piece by piece. I clicked the next file, a video. The thumbnail showed David sitting in what looked like his study. He was speaking directly to the camera, his eyes sharp, calculating. "Maggie, I need you to understand something." The video was clear, almost too clear, as if David had known this moment would come. "The day I signed that will, I knew they'd come for everything." He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "But what they don't know, what they'll never know, is that I've been preparing for this day for years. I've set the stage for them to destroy themselves." My stomach twisted as I watched him speak. This wasn't just about revenge, it was a strategy, a carefully crafted plan to take down David's entire family. Every word he spoke, every decision he made, was part of a larger game. And now, I was the pawn who had to play it. The video continued. David's face hardened as he spoke again. Gregory doesn't know it, but I've already exposed his financial mess. He's been siphoning money off the family business for years, using his position to launder money. David's eyes darkened. Ellen, well, her greed goes beyond money. She's been sleeping with someone inside the company, trying to push me out for good. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to make them pay. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Gregory had been stealing from the family for years. Ellen, David's own sister, had been plotting behind his back. As the video ended, David's face looked directly into the camera, his voice lowering to a whisper. Maggie, this is your fight now. You have to finish it. I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. The phone that had once seemed like a simple memento of my husband's life now felt like a ticking time bomb, one that would blow up everything I thought I knew about my marriage and my family. I felt sick to my stomach, overwhelmed by the weight of what I had just uncovered. David had set me up to be the one to destroy them. The thought was chilling, and yet there was a part of me, deep down, that could understand it. His family had never accepted me, never truly welcomed me into their fold. I had always been an outsider, even after all these years. I stared at the phone in my hands, knowing that whatever I decided to do next would change everything. I had a choice to make. Would I carry out David's revenge plan, or would I try to walk away from it all? The thought of confronting Ellen and Gregory made my stomach turn. They had already taken so much from me, and now, with David gone, they thought they had won. But what if they hadn't? What if, in David's final moments, he had set a trap for them? What if I could destroy them just as David had planned? I couldn't let this go. I couldn't let them win. Not after everything they had taken from me. But just as I was about to dive deeper into the phone, another message popped up. A message from David's lawyer. I opened it, my heart racing. Maggie, it's time. Your inheritance is waiting. The message was simple, cryptic, but its meaning was clear. David had left something for me, something beyond just the phone, beyond just the revenge. What was it? Was it a final gift or another part of his twisted plan? I shook my head, unable to comprehend it all. The lawyer had been instructed to contact me. My name was on a list, but why? What did David leave behind? I couldn't stop myself. I had to find out. I had to know what David had left for me. Was it just money? Or was it something far more dangerous? Just as I was about to close the phone, another file popped up. Ellen's Deal was the title. My heart raced. I clicked it open. It was a document, handwritten, signed by David himself. A deal. A secret agreement with Ellen, one that I had never known about. The document was filled with details about their agreement, about her position in the family business, and most shockingly, her betrayal. David had known all along. He had set her up. He had given her enough rope to hang herself. The file was long, filled with legal jargon, but the bottom line was clear. David had orchestrated Ellen's downfall before his death. He had left a paper trail of evidence that would destroy her reputation and expose her for the fraud she was. I sat back in my seat, staring at the screen. My heart was pounding in my chest. David's revenge wasn't just about money, it was about making sure Ellen paid for everything she had done. I had no choice now. I had to see this through. David had left me the map, and I was the one who had to walk it. But I wasn't ready for what came next. I couldn't believe what I had just uncovered. David's final words, the documents, the video recordings, it was all leading me to one terrifying conclusion. This wasn't just about inheritance. This wasn't even about his family stealing what was rightfully his. This was personal. This was a battle that David had been fighting for years, and I was now part of it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was no longer in control of my life. I wasn't just Maggie Hartley anymore. I wasn't the grieving widow who had lost everything. I was a pawn in a game that David had set into motion long before his death. And now I had a choice. to follow through with his plan or to walk away, leaving everything behind. But the deeper I went, the more impossible it felt to turn back. The documents David had left me weren't just legal files. They were like a blueprint for war. And at the center of it all was Ellen Hartley, David's sister, the woman who had secretly plotted against him for years. The woman who had manipulated everyone, including me, into believing she was a loving family member. But she was. She was a master manipulator, a woman who would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. And I was starting to see her true colors, the real Ellen. I sat in my living room, the weight of the phone in my hand, the silence in the room overwhelming. The documents, the video footage, the messages, they were all leading to her. She had been a part of David's life, but only as a shadow, always hiding in the background. I thought she had been nothing more than a dutiful sister, one who played the part of the loving relative. But now I knew the truth. She had been plotting against him, trying to steal everything from him for years. I closed my eyes, the reality of it all sinking in. David had known it all. He had been preparing for this day, preparing for me to take the final step. He had put his trust in me, and now I had to carry out his final wish. But where did I even begin? I needed answers. More answers than the phone could provide. I needed to confront her. Ellen had to know that I knew the truth. I had to confront her, expose her for what she really was. But how would I do it? I spent hours poring over the documents again, reading every word. David's meticulous notes were filled with shocking revelations, ones I could barely comprehend. One of the documents was a detailed financial record of Ellen's secret dealings. It showed how she had been siphoning money from the family business for years, using her position to secure investments in fake companies, laundering money, and hiding the profits. But that wasn't all. Ellen had been using David's trust to fund a lavish lifestyle that no one knew about, expensive vacations, luxurious cars, private estates. Ellen had been living a double life. But it was worse than that, much worse. I found another video, this time not from David, but from someone else, someone who had been secretly working with him. Gregory Hartley, David's cousin, was standing in front of a camera, speaking in hushed tones. "We have to move fast. If David catches wind of this, it's over." My stomach twisted. Gregory, the man I had trusted, the man who had always smiled and treated me like part of the family, was in on this. He had been working with Ellen all along, trying to undermine David's position in the company. I couldn't believe it. Gregory, the man who had been pretending to be my ally, my friend, was just as treacherous as the rest of them. The more I watched, the more I realized that David had known everything. He had seen the betrayal coming from a mile away. He had been gathering information for months, collecting evidence to expose them for what they truly were. He had played them. And now, I had to finish what he started. I paused the video, my breath coming in shallow gasps. What was I even doing? I was on the edge of something much darker than I had ever imagined. But there was no going back now. I had to do this. For David. For me. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I knew what I had to do next. I had to confront Ellen. I had to expose her in front of the entire family, show them what she had been hiding, and let them see her for what she truly was. It wouldn't be easy. Ellen had power, connections, and influence in the family. But I had something she didn't. I had the truth. As the days passed, I began to notice strange things happening. The family members who had been so quick to ignore me at the funeral were now watching me from a distance. Their eyes followed me when I entered the room, their whispers growing louder. It was clear that they were nervous, suspicious. They knew something was off. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were all closing in on me. Ellen, in particular, was becoming more and more unpredictable. She was watching me closely, like a hawk waiting for its prey. I had no doubt that she knew something was coming, but she didn't know that I had uncovered everything. I had the upper hand now, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. One afternoon, I decided it was time. I had to confront her. I called Ellen, my fingers shaking as I dialed her number. She picked up on the first ring, her voice smooth and controlled, but I could sense the tension beneath the surface. "Maggie, how are you doing? I hope you're not letting all of this get to you." She sounded too sweet, too rehearsed. I gripped the phone tighter, my pulse racing. "Ellen, we need to talk." Her tone shifted ever so slightly. "What about?" "About what you've been doing behind David's back." There was a long pause. Then, with a cold laugh, she responded, "What are you talking about? I don't know what you think you know, but I assure you, Maggie, you're wrong." I felt my stomach tighten. She was lying. She was hiding something, and I was about to expose it all. "Ellen, I know everything." My voice was steady now, filled with the certainty of the truth. "I know about the money, the deals, the lies, and I know about Gregory. You two thought you could outsmart David, but I'm here to tell you that I won't let you win." Her silence was deafening. I could feel her eyes on me, even through the phone. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and venomous. "You think you're in control, don't you?" she sneered. "You have no idea what you're up against, Maggie. This isn't just about money. This is about power, and you're going to lose." I swallowed hard, my anger rising. She had no idea what she was dealing with. "We'll see about that, Ellen." I hung up the phone, feeling the weight of the conversation settle over me. The battle was just beginning. The days blurred together, each one bringing with it a storm of emotions, a torrent of fear and anger that swirled in my chest. Ellen's words still echoed in my ears, her cold, venomous tone hanging in the air long after I hung up the phone. "You think you're in control, don't you?" She had said it as if she already knew how this would end. I was nothing but a pawn in her game, or so she thought. But she had no idea what was coming. I wasn't just a widow anymore. I wasn't just Maggie Hartley, the woman who had been humiliated by her husband's death and left to mourn alone. I was something much more dangerous now. I had uncovered the lies, the schemes, the betrayals that David's family had hidden from me for years. Ellen, my sister-in-law, had spent months, maybe even years, destroying everything David had built, manipulating his family and friends, poisoning their minds against him, all while smiling in my face. But what she didn't know was that her actions had led her to this moment, my moment. And now, with the truth in my hands, I was going to make sure she paid for everything she had done. As I sat in my dimly lit living room, the phone, David's phone, glowed in front of me. The screen flickered once again, and I could feel the weight of the choices that lay before me. I could feel the power in my hands, but I was also acutely aware of how dangerous it all was. The plan I was following wasn't my own. It was David's, his final act of vengeance. His words, his strategy had set everything into motion. And now I was standing at the crossroads, the one he had mapped out for me. But how far was I willing to go? The more I thought about it, the more the anger within me burned hotter. I had lost David, and now his family was about to lose everything they held dear. But was that enough? I opened the next file on the phone, and what I found made my heart drop into my stomach. It wasn't just financial records or secret recordings of Ellen and Gregory whispering in dark corners. This was something far worse. It was a video. The thumbnail showed a familiar figure, Gregory Hartley, David's cousin. The same man who had always seemed so amiable, so trustworthy. The man who had offered me his shoulder to lean on, his comforting words when I needed them most. Gregory had played me. I clicked on the video, my pulse racing, knowing that this would change everything. The video started with a shaky camera, and there was Gregory, packing in a dimly lit room, his face twisted with frustration. The sound of his voice sent a chill down my spine. "Maggie has no idea, does she?" he muttered to himself. "She doesn't know that I've been behind it all." I froze. My mind couldn't process the words. He was talking about me, about us. He had been playing me all along, pretending to be the loving, supportive family member, the one who was there when David was gone. But he had orchestrated it all. The money, the deals, the manipulation, it had all been Gregory's doing. My heart raced as I listened, each word striking like a hammer. He went on, detailing how he and Ellen had been working together, making sure that David's wealth would fall into their hands. They had engineered his downfall, pushing him out of the business, pretending to be the loyal family members, when in reality, they were the ones planning his destruction. But then the most chilling part of the video came. Gregory's eyes flickered nervously toward the camera, and he leaned closer, speaking in a low, urgent voice. "David's dead, but he's left us with a problem. Maggie." My blood ran cold. He was talking about me, my role in all of this. We've got to make sure Maggie doesn't figure it out. She's a loose end. I dropped the phone in shock, the weight of his words crashing over me like a tidal wave. Gregory, the man who had stood by my side, the one I had trusted, had been the one to betray David. He had been the one pulling the strings, manipulating everyone, including me. My hands shook as I picked up the phone, my mind reeling from the revelation. Gregory had plotted David's downfall. He had been the puppet master, and I had been his unwitting pawn. But there was more. The video ended with a final, chilling sentence from Gregory. "We just need to deal with Maggie. Deal with me." I felt the weight of those words settle in my chest. I was no longer safe. I stood up, packing around the room, my mind racing. What did Gregory mean by that? What had he planned? I had already uncovered so many secrets, but now the stakes had been raised. Gregory was a threat. If I didn't act quickly, I would be the next target. But then a sudden thought struck me. What if this was the final part of David's plan? What if this was the moment he had been preparing me for? What if David had known all along that Gregory would try to come after me, and he had left me with a way to defend myself? I glanced down at the phone in my hands, and my eyes caught the final file labeled Final Steps. My heart skipped a beat. This was it, the last part of David's plan, the part that would determine everything. I clicked on it, holding my breath, not knowing what I would find. The file opened, and a set of documents appeared, legal files, signatures, contracts, all with one thing in common. They were all related to David's will. And there, at the very bottom, was the final twist. "Maggie, I know you will be tested. The family will try to come for you. But remember, I left everything to you." I gasped, unable to believe what I was reading. David had left me everything. The empire, the house, the money. But most importantly, he had left me the power to destroy everything they had worked so hard to steal. All I had to do was take it. My fingers hovered over the screen, my heart pounding. Could I do it? Could I really take everything from them? As I sat there, grappling with the enormity of what David had planned for me, a voice echoed in my mind. David trusted me. He had always trusted me, even when no one else did. And now, it was my turn to take control. The phone buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. It was a message from Ellen. "Maggie, we need to talk. It's time to end this." I stared at the message, a chill running down my spine. This was it. Ellen knew I was onto her, and she was coming for me. But I wasn't afraid anymore. This wasn't just David's revenge anymore. It was mine. My heart hammered in my chest as I stared at the phone in my hands. The words from David's final message were still echoing in my mind, repeating over and over. "Maggie, I know you will be tested. The family will try to come for you. But remember, I left everything to you." It was clear. David had laid out a path for me to follow, and it was now my responsibility to walk it, to finish what he had started. And then there was the message from Ellen, the one I had just received, the one that confirmed she knew everything. "Maggie, we need to talk. It's time to end this." I could feel the weight of her words in my bones. Ellen was coming for me just like David had predicted. She had to know I was on to her. And Gregory had been playing both sides, manipulating everyone with a smile, pretending to be the loyal cousin. But now the truth was clear, and it all pointed to one thing. They were trying to destroy me. I wasn't going to let that happen. I took a deep breath, fighting to steady my shaking hands. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, the fear and the anger blending together in a way I had never experienced. I wasn't just a widow anymore. I was a woman with a plan, and it was time to execute it. The phone buzzed again, pulling me out of my thoughts. A message from Gregory. I hesitated for a moment before opening it. He knew I was onto him. I could feel the tension building in my chest. The message read, "Maggie, we both know where this is going. Don't make things harder than they need to be. Just let it go." I scoffed at the screen. Let it go. Let them win. Let them destroy everything David had built. Let them push me out of my own life. Not a chance. I could feel my pulse quicken. I had a choice now, a decision that would change everything. Should I confront Ellen and Gregory head-on, or should I play this game more strategically, using their own greed and arrogance against them? I couldn't keep running from this anymore. David had trusted me. He had given me the tools, the blueprint, the weapon. All I had to do was use it. And so I decided. It was time to confront them. It was time to end this. I made my way to the family estate, David's estate, now mine. The place that had once felt like home now seemed like a cold, unfamiliar prison. I had spent years here, watching the family tear each other apart behind closed doors, but now the tables had turned. Now I was the one who would decide their fate. As I walked through the grand hall, my heels clicking on the marble floor, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Ellen was here. I knew it. I could feel her presence, lurking just out of sight, waiting for her moment to strike. But I wasn't afraid anymore. This was my moment. I reached the door to the study, the room where so many decisions had been made, where David had made his plans and where his secrets had been kept. I could hear the muffled voices from inside, Ellen and Gregory, no doubt. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and opened the door. The room fell silent the moment I stepped inside. Both Ellen and Gregory froze, their eyes locking onto mine. They knew this was it. They could feel the shift in the air, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Ellen's lips curled into a sly smile, but there was a flicker of unease in her eyes. Gregory, on the other hand, stood frozen, his posture stiff. "Maggie, darling, what a surprise." Ellen's voice was sweet, too sweet. I could hear the nervous edge to it, though she tried to hide it behind her practiced charm. "You've been busy, haven't you?" I didn't waste time on pleasantries. I stepped into the room, my eyes locked on Ellen, ignoring Gregory for the moment. "You think you can get away with this, don't you?" I said, my voice calm, but with an undercurrent of rage. "You think you can just take everything from David from me and walk away without consequences?" Ellen's smile faltered, but she quickly recovered, leaning back in her chair with an air of false confidence. "Maggie, please, you're upset. I understand. But all of this, it's over. There's nothing left for you." "That's where you're wrong." I took a step forward. "You think David left you everything, but he didn't. He left me the truth." Gregory shifted uncomfortably, his gaze flicking between me and Ellen. "Maggie, don't do this." His voice was strained now, a hint of panic breaking through his calm facade. "You don't know what you're getting yourself into." I turned to face him, my eyes narrowing. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm getting into." I held up David's phone, the device that had unlocked the entire web of lies, betrayals, and deceit. "David left me everything I need to take you down." Ellen's eyes widened, and for the first time I saw a flicker of fear cross her face. "What are you talking about?" Her voice cracked, but she quickly regained her composure. "You don't know what you're doing. You can't just—" "I know exactly what I'm doing." I cut her off, my voice low, dangerous. "David knew you would betray him. He knew you would take everything from him, from me, and he left a plan that I'm going to finish." I took a step closer to Ellen, my heart pounding in my chest, but my resolve unshakable. David's plan wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, and justice will be served. Ellen stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "You're making a mistake. You have no idea who you're dealing with." I laughed, a sound that was cold like ice. "Oh, I think I know exactly who I'm dealing with. You're a thief, a liar, and a murderer, and I'm not letting you get away with it." The silence in the room was deafening. Gregory, the man who had been a constant presence in my life, the man who had always seemed so genuine, now looked like a stranger. He was no longer the family member I had trusted. He was a traitor, just like Ellen. "Maggie, stop." Gregory's voice trembled now, his bravado slipping. "You don't have to do this. Let it go." "No," I shook my head. "You're not getting away with it, not this time." I turned to face Ellen once more. "You've spent your whole life pretending to be a loving sister, a doting cousin, a friend. But I see you for who you really are now, and I'm going to make sure the world sees you too." For the first time, Ellen looked vulnerable. The mask she had worn for so long was slipping, and I knew, deep down, that she knew it was over. Justice was coming for her. Like and subscribe to stay updated on this journey. The story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what happens next.